The tiny staff swiftly expanded into its magnificent full-sized form, ancient golden runes shimmering vibrantly along its length, emitting an immense, irresistible presence. "Do not disappoint me, young one," Wukong said calmly, his previously carefree demeanor now filled with seriousness. "Too many people have placed countless expectations upon you. And should you pass this test, I, the great sage equal to heaven, will also place my expectations upon your shoulders." Orion inhaled deeply, his draconic heart hammering strongly yet rhythmically, a blend of resolve echoing through his very bones. He steadied his breathing, allowing the tension to dissipate as his body settled into a confident battle stance, mana pulsing fiercely along his muscular frame. He raised his blade, his dual-colored eyes glinting sharply, determination blazing brighter than ever. "Then I shall do everything to meet those expectations," Orion declared solemnly, his voice imbued with profound resolve and unwavering courage. Sun Wukong's face brightened with excitement, his half-human, half-monkey form exuding unbridled enthusiasm. With a playful, fierce grin, the Monkey King leaped skyward effortlessly, ascending above the clouds as he raised his legendary golden staff high above his head. The staff grew impossibly large, its immense form tearing apart the heavens themselves, stretching endlessly across the cosmos. Reality seemed insignificant before its majesty, shattering easily beneath the overwhelming presence. Wukong's powerful voice thundered across the broken skies, echoing clearly with the authority befitting his legendary title. "Here it comes. Face it bravely, child." Orion roared defiantly, his energy surging violently as every ounce of power from his draconic bloodlines and the potent human emperor lineage erupted simultaneously. Immense crimson-gold flames and dazzling azure lightning spiraled chaotically around him, forming an overwhelming vortex of raw, unfathomable power. Yet, just as he prepared to strike, an irresistible pressure, indescribably ancient and boundlessly mighty, crashed mercilessly upon Orion, threatening to crush his very existence. He immediately understood the staggering difference between them. This was the great sage equal to heaven, a figure from myths and legends far beyond his comprehension. For an instant, hesitation flickered through Orion's heart, the primal instinct to retreat momentarily surfacing. Yet within him, the mighty dragon emperor bloodlines roared defiantly, their proud wills refusing any retreat. Even more surprisingly, the usually silent human emperor bloodline surged forth, its noble pride equaling or surpassing that of the dragons themselves. They refused to yield. The bloodlines within Orion harmonized fiercely, demanding he face this impossible trial without hesitation, even if it meant death. "I will not yield." Orion roared defiantly, voice echoing across the collapsing skies, every cell within his being filled with unyielding pride and unbreakable determination. Instead of stepping back, Orion forced himself to step forward, sword raised defiantly against the unstoppable force descending from above. He thrust forward with every ounce of his soul and being, confronting the colossal golden staff head-on, knowing full well it might shatter him completely. "Come," he shouted, voice filled with boundless resolve. "I am ready." The collision was instantaneous, world-ending, cataclysmic. Boom! An explosion of incomprehensible scale tore through reality, shaking the world as Orion's defiant will collided with the Monkey King's divine might. In an instant, the serene world of lakes, greenery, and roaring waterfalls dissolved, fading away into a swirling abyss of chaotic energy. All that remained was a silent void, a place outside time and existence. Orion stood there, his draconic chest heaving deeply, each breath ragged yet fiercely defiant. Blood streamed from fresh wounds torn open by the collision, mixing with sweat along his battered scales. His hand still tightly gripped the Realm Guardian sword, its blade humming softly, as though comforting its wielder after enduring a struggle beyond mortal comprehension. Above, standing nonchalantly amidst the boundless void, Sun Wukong smiled gently, his golden eyes filled with approval and amusement. His golden staff, once immense enough to split the skies themselves, had returned to its usual length, now resting casually across his shoulders. "You've done well, young one," Wukong praised warmly, his voice brimming with genuine approval. "Not only did you choose not to retreat, but you even dared to advance forward against an attack capable of erasing your existence. Few possess such courage." Orion raised his weary gaze, meeting Wukong's smiling visage. He remained quiet, struggling to process the enormity of what he'd just endured. His limbs trembled subtly, exhaustion threatening to overtake him. Yet he felt a flicker of pride at being praised by the mythical being, Monkey King himself. Wukong nodded softly, a twinkle of mischief lighting his eyes. "You passed this test, heir of doomed path," he said gently. "Remember, great expectations accompany great power. I look forward to seeing how far you rise." As Wukong finished speaking, the infinite void trembled once more. Orion blinked in confusion, and suddenly the boundless expanse vanished completely, replaced instantly by the familiar sight atop the celestial staff. The cool winds held around him, reminding Orion of his surroundings. The staff's surface, beneath his feet, pulsed gently with a mystical energy. He quickly glanced around, noticing Valerian was nowhere near him. Orion's eyes narrowed sharply, instincts flaring as he swiftly turned his gaze downward. Far below, amidst scattered rubble and shattered earth, Valerian struggled painfully to rise. His regal, once arrogant form was now battered, torn, and severely wounded, his proud face marred by cuts and dark blood streaks. His wings lay tattered and twisted behind him as he stumbled weakly onto shaking legs, his crimson eyes filled with hatred, desperation, and disbelief. Orion's gaze sharpened fiercely. His body surged with renewed purpose, thoughts about the staff and the trial instantly forgotten. Without hesitation, he tightened his grip around the Realm Guardian's sword, stepping decisively off the staff's edge and hurtling downward toward his hated foe, crimson gold flames and azure lightning blazing ferociously around his battered body. His mind focused solely on the vampire lord. He adjusted the runes upon his blade, increasing its density to its absolute maximum, transforming it into an unstoppable weapon of execution. Below, Valerian's senses flared, feeling Orion's rapidly approaching presence. Weakly raising his bloodied face skyward, the vampire lord's crimson eyes widened sharply in realization and fear. Orion's form approached like a meteor descending from the heavens, wielding enough weight and power to obliterate mountains. Valerian's desperation surged forth, his pride refusing to yield without a final struggle. Gritting his teeth fiercely, he summoned his final reserves of darkness and blood mana, forming a jagged, sinister sword that crackled chaotically with malevolent energy. "I will take you down if you want to kill me." Valerian roared defiantly, eyes wide with madness as he hurled himself upward toward Orion, sword aimed directly at the Draconian's heart. Orion's face remained coldly determined, unwavering in his resolve, eyes devoid of hesitation or mercy. His grip tightened further, his blade descending toward Valerian's head without pause. The collision happened instantly. A chilling, decisive sound of steel slicing through flesh and bone echoed mercilessly. Orion's blade split Valerian's head cleanly down the middle, ending the vampire lord's struggle once and for all. But at that exact instant, Orion felt Valerian's blade pierce deeply into his chest, plunging ruthlessly into his heart. The world seemed to slow dramatically as Orion gasped, eyes flinching slightly as blood gushed out freely from the mortal wound. Valerian's severed head landed heavily upon the scorched, ruined earth, rolling slightly before coming to a grim stop. A dark pool of blood quickly formed beneath it, staining the ground in eerie crimson. Yet, in those final moments, the vampire lord's gaze remained sharp, his lips curving into a cynical smile as all his previous panic vanished. "Foolish brat," Valerian's voice emerged faintly yet mockingly, eyes glowing softly despite his gruesome state, "you truly decided to kill yourself along with me?" Above, Orion staggered, gripping tightly onto the Realm Guardian's sword, feeling the burning agony spread mercilessly from his pierced heart. The world seemed to fade at the edges of his vision, threatening to plunge him into darkness. Yet, amidst the pain and blurring senses, Orion maintained clarity, his mind racing rapidly. He refused to let Valerian's mocking words be the last thing he heard. Without hesitation or a single wasted breath, Orion swiftly reached into his inventory, retrieving the tiny but extraordinary relic, the time-lost hourglass. His trembling fingers curled around the delicate, intricately designed object. Even as blood poured from his chest, Orion smiled coldly, locking eyes with the still-aware head of Valerian. Don't overestimate yourself, Orion retorted calmly, his voice slightly mocking. You aren't worthy enough for me to trade my life for yours. He used the artifact quickly, and instantly, reality seemed to ripple around him. A mystical power surged forth, engulfing Orion completely. For precisely 1.5 seconds, the fabric of time reversed itself, threads of reality knitting rapidly to undo the mortal damage inflicted upon Orion's heart. Valerian's dagger, having plunged deeply into Orion's heart just moments before, abruptly vanished from the wound, clattering harmlessly onto the charred, devastated earth before Orion's feet. The fatal injury healed instantly, leaving Orion gasping softly, feeling life surge back into him, his heart beating powerfully once more, his breathing steadying rapidly. Valerian's severed head stared upward silently, the mocking grin fading, replaced by an expression of unexpected calmness. He seemed neither enraged nor disappointed, instead, a strange silence had settled upon him. Well played, Valerian finally conceded quietly, his voice strangely calm yet distant. I must commend you. You are the first mortal to have bested me in countless millennia. He paused, his crimson eyes still burning faintly with interest. You truly managed to defeat one of my lesser clones. Orion's hand twitched sharply, his eyes narrowing dangerously upon hearing this revelation. Deep within, he'd harbored suspicion about Valerian's seemingly absurd strength, the arrogance with which he had carried himself throughout the encounter. And now, Valerian himself had confirmed it, yet Orion felt no sense of victory, only deeper apprehension at what this implied. You talk far too much, Orion muttered icily, cutting short Valerian's explanations. Leaning forward, he grabbed the severed head by its blood-matted hair, his expression unchanging, cold as steel. He hurled it decisively upward, directly toward a vicious spatial turbulence crackling violently within the shattered sky. The severed head soared through the air, Valerian's voice echoing one last time across the devastated landscape. I'll remember you, mortal. With a faint crackle, the head vanished into the roiling spatial fissure, obliterated completely by the chaotic storm. Silence returned slowly to the shattered world, a deep stillness replacing the violence and chaos that had raged mere moments ago. Orion stood there quietly amidst the devastation, gripping the Realm Guardian sword tightly, feeling the weight of his countless wounds and struggles. His gaze swept slowly across the ravaged landscape around him. The once tall mountains had collapsed into rubble, fractured earth sprawled endlessly, gaping spatial fissures pulsated menacingly, threatening to devour what remained. Cities lay in absolute ruin, mere echoes of their former grandeur. The collateral damage from their battle had been catastrophic, immeasurable loss etched visibly into the land itself. Orion closed his eyes briefly, inhaling deeply to steady his heart and mind, allowing himself a momentary pause. Regret surged within him, mixed with guilt at the millions of innocent lives lost to the collateral violence. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon his shoulders, forcing him into quiet contemplation. Yet, amidst that silence, gentle footsteps echoed softly, approaching Orion hesitatingly. Sensing their presence, Orion slowly opened his weary eyes, turning calmly toward the newcomers. Walking through the swirling dust and lingering smoke were Duke Varian and the Lion King, both bearing expressions of deep awe mixed with unspoken sorrow. Their gazes met Orion's respectfully, cautiously approaching as if unsure how to address the powerful being who had wrought such unimaginable destruction, yet had also vanquished their greatest enemy. Duke Varian, normally proud and dignified, bore clear marks of recent battle himself, armor dented, clothing torn, yet his expression now humbled before Orion's overwhelming might. He took a step forward first, bowing slightly. Orion met Duke Varian's gaze and offered a subtle, weary nod, his voice heavy with sincerity as he began softly, I'm sorry for the destruction caused by. Yet Varian swiftly raised a hand, interrupting him firmly yet respectfully, shaking his head solemnly. You don't have to feel guilty, Lord Orion. If not for you, our entire world would have become nothing but a feeding ground for those damned bloodsuckers. Orion paused, eyes flickering with slight surprise, clearly unsettled by Varian's words. Explain, he requested, his tone sharply curious. It was the Lion King who stepped forward now, his towering form battered yet dignified. He inclined his head deeply, his voice a low, rumbling growl filled with barely contained fury and grief. I overheard one of the vampire generals speaking with another. Once they conquer a world, it becomes nothing more than livestock for their clans. They feast mercilessly on the inhabitants' blood until there's nothing left but a hollow, dead husk. Hearing this revelation, Orion took a slow, deep breath, a dark shadow crossing his face as he muttered darkly, I truly underestimated the cruelty of those damned bloodsuckers. His eyes then drifted across the devastated landscape once more, the shattered earth and ruined cities testaments to his own destructive battle. A wry, bitter smile formed on his lips as he shook his head. But I'm not much better than them, am I? The entire spatial grid of your world is destabilized. It isn't far from total collapse. The Lion King, however, offered a calm, faintly resolute smile, devoid of blame or bitterness. This end is far better than becoming mere livestock. At least we will meet our fate with dignity. Orion's expression softened at the king's brave words, yet just then, his senses flared sharply. He swiftly spun around, eyes narrowing and mana instinctively surging through his battered body. Atop the towering celestial staff, now dramatically shrunken yet still looming imposingly like a massive golden pillar, sat a familiar, casually posed figure, the Monkey King himself, Sun Wukong. His fiery golden eyes twinkled playfully, radiating a divine aura that rendered the Lion King and Duke Varian unconscious in an instant, their bodies gently collapsing to the ground. Orion stood alone now, his gaze steady as he looked at the mischievous deity perched above. What was this test truly about, he asked, his voice calm yet filled with unspoken questions. Why the climb to the top? What will I receive, and are there any more trials? Wukong's lips curled into an amused, teasing smile. As he raised an eyebrow, swinging his legs nonchalantly. Slow down there, young one. Why the sudden barrage of questions? Orion inhaled deeply, forcing himself to suppress his impatience. Once composed, he remained quiet, respectfully awaiting the Monkey King's explanation. Satisfied, Wukong chuckled lightly, hopping down from the staff effortlessly. As his feet touched the ground, the immense pillar shrank instantly, returning to the size of a regular staff. He twirled it lightly, the intricate golden runes shimmering with power. The test was meant to find a worthy successor, Wukong revealed plainly, eyes glinting seriously despite his casual tone. The climb was merely to measure the resilience, courage, and spirit of the contenders. Your vampiric opponent hesitated at the crucial moment and thus failed. As for what you will gain. He paused deliberately, holding the staff horizontally before Orion, his golden eyes vibrant with pride and seriousness. Naturally, you shall inherit my very own staff, Rui Jingu Bang. Orion's breath caught sharply, his heart racing despite his best efforts to remain composed. He stared at the legendary weapon, his eyes flashing with disbelief. Gathering himself quickly, he hesitated and said carefully, Isn't this a bit too simple? Your staff surely ranks among the most powerful artifacts, not merely in this small kiliacosm but across countless higher worlds. Wukong burst into cheerful laughter, nodding approvingly. Of course, for any other candidate, more arduous trials would await. But you are special, little one. You are the chosen heir of the primordial emperor himself. I trust that old ghost's judgment enough to entrust my legacy directly to you. Orion took a long, steadying breath, acknowledging silently that the Monkey King's words made perfect sense given his unique lineage and connection to Echo. Still, Wukong's playful grin widened suddenly, eyes sparkling mischievously. Since you clearly recognize me, Wukong teased lightly, do you perhaps know the true purpose of my staff? What it was originally used for? Orion hesitated, recalling vague fragments of ancient legends he'd once encountered. It was used to measure the depth of the ocean and stabilize the tides of the Eastern Ocean, he answered carefully. Originally, it rested within the palace of the Dragon King Ao Guang. Wukong's smile brightened considerably, nodding enthusiastically. Exactly. And tell me, young one, what do you suppose might happen if you used this very staff to stabilize the spatial grid of this collapsing world? Orion's eyes widened instantly in astonishment, comprehension dawning rapidly. The staff, it can stabilize this entire world's spatial integrity? Wukong chuckled warmly, spinning the golden staff. Naturally. After becoming the victorious fighting Buddha, I improved it extensively. Its powers far exceed mere title control now. Orion's breath quickened, his mind rapidly racing with implications and possibilities. Yet Wukong's playful expression shifted slightly, becoming surprisingly serious as he looked at Orion carefully. Now, the critical choice, Wukong declared softly, eyes solemn yet curious. Will you sacrifice this priceless treasure to save this small, damaged world? Without even the slightest hesitation, Orion nodded resolutely. Of course, he replied firmly. The Monkey King smiled warmly, yet persisted, are you certain? You will lose this staff permanently by anchoring it to stabilize this place. Worlds like this one come and go infinitely in the vastness of even a small kiliacosm. My staff nearly rivals your limitless system itself. Is this world truly worth such sacrifice? Orion fell quiet, deeply contemplating Wukong's weighty words. Lumi remained silent in his consciousness, wisely allowing him to consider this monumental decision independently. Countless thoughts raced through Orion's mind, the devastated landscapes, hundreds of millions of innocent lives lost due to his battle, Duke Varian and the Lion King who had chosen dignity over despair. In his heart, he knew what had to be done. Finally, he raised his gaze slowly, meeting Wukong's expectant eyes calmly yet resolutely. This world faces destruction because of my presence and actions, Orion stated steadily, his voice clear, determined. If there's even a chance for me to repair the damage and save it, then it's my duty to do so. Please, great sage, allow me to use your staff to stabilize the space of this world. Wukong's lips curled upward in approval, his golden eyes shining brightly with pride and amusement. Without another word, he tossed the legendary Rui Jingu Bang casually toward Orion. Instinctively, Orion reached out, bracing himself to receive the mighty weapon, but as soon as it touched his palms, his entire body buckled under its astronomical weight, nearly forcing him to the ground. However, before Orion could collapse entirely, the staff suddenly grew impossibly light, settling comfortably within his grasp as if it had recognized him. Orion straightened himself cautiously, breathing deeply as confusion and relief crossed his face. Wukong laughed cheerfully, pointing upward toward the chaotic spatial turbulence violently cracking across the shattered heavens. Throw it into the spatial turbulence, he instructed with a playful voice. It'll stabilize the space on its own. Orion paused, gazing deeply at the staff in his hands. Its golden surface shimmered brilliantly, etched with ancient runes, emanating warmth as if urging him forward. Yet, in that moment, hesitation and doubt briefly clouded Orion's expression, his mind swiftly reconsidering his earlier decision. Could he really sacrifice something so precious, a weapon capable of rivaling the mythical limitless system itself? But then, Orion's jaw tightened firmly, determination surging powerfully within him once more. This world's devastation was his responsibility, its survival his duty. Strengthening his grip decisively around the staff, he took a deep, steadying breath. In one swift motion, Orion hurled the staff skyward, propelling it with all the might and determination he possessed. The golden staff shot upward like a blazing meteor, effortlessly piercing through the violent spatial cracks that tore apart the heavens above. Boom! An explosion of golden brilliance erupted instantly, illuminating the devastated world in radiant splendor. Slowly, miraculously, the vicious spatial cracks began closing, reality healing itself under the staff's mysterious power. A sudden, cheerful clapping rang out from behind Orion, prompting him to turn sharply. Standing there was Wukong, applauding enthusiastically, his playful smile broader than ever, eyes filled with approval. Congratulations, young one, Wukong praised warmly. You've passed my final trial. Orion's eyes widened sharply, shock and disbelief coloring his expression as he stared incredulously at the Monkey King. His mind rapidly processed Wukong's words, struggling to comprehend their meaning fully. Wukong chuckled lightly, clearly enjoying Orion's astonished reaction. You truly believe I'd let just anyone become my successor? This was the true test, the final trial. And you passed magnificently. Orion remained speechless for several long seconds, staring in disbelief before finally managing to speak, voice hesitant. What would have happened if I'd chosen the staff for myself rather than using it to save this world? Wukong's expression grew amused, eyes twinkling mischievously. The staff would have dispersed into nothingness, he revealed calmly. You would have gained nothing but bitter disappointment. Orion inhaled sharply, fully understanding the implications of Wukong's test. Trust and selflessness had truly been tested, and thankfully, he had not failed. Then what about the staff now? Orion asked carefully, curiosity piqued. His gaze rose upward, observing the healed sky, searching for the staff that had seemingly vanished into the restored heavens. Wukong followed Orion's gaze, smiling lightly. It was merely a replica, he confessed easily, his voice relaxed yet proud. Do you really believe my true Rui Jinggubang would be necessary to stabilize a mere small world's spatial integrity? My real staff can stabilize the space of even a great kiliacosm effortlessly, let alone a mere small world like this. Orion exhaled slowly, realization dawning on him. He had genuinely been fooled by Wukong's talk of trust and his relationship with the primordial emperor, Echo. Yet, despite the initial shock, Orion harbored no resentment. Rather, a deep sense of respect for Wukong's cleverness and sincerity grew within him. Wukong stepped forward then, his expression solemn and sincere. Your decision today leads to my true legacy, he announced gently. I hope that you're the one destined to receive it. With that, Wukong reached casually into his thick golden fur, carefully plucking out a single golden hair. Holding it gently, the hair transformed swiftly, morphing elegantly into a shimmering golden headband, radiant with a divine glow. Orion's eyes widened again, a trace of unease surfacing within him as he asked hesitantly, is that the fabled golden headband? Will I be bound by restrictions or forced to follow certain rules? Wukong shook his head with a chuckle, his expression calm. No, he clarified, voice soothing yet firm. This merely grants you access to the true legacy grounds of my inheritance. Now, Orion, stand tall and accept this. Orion briefly glanced around the barren lands one final time, cracked ground, shattered mountains, ruins, and devastation. Although the spatial grid had stabilized, the scars upon this world remained evident, lingering as a painful reminder of his actions. Orion decided internally to address this destruction eventually, but now, accepting Wukong's legacy took precedence. Resolutely, Orion straightened himself, shoulders squared, head held high. Wukong approached solemnly, gently placing the golden headband upon Orion's head. The golden headband settled gently onto Orion's forehead, its ethereal warmth spreading outward slowly, gently merging with his skin. Almost instantly, he felt a subtle, comforting stream of energy flow into him, cascading gently like a quiet river, penetrating deeply into his sea of consciousness. Wukong stepped back leisurely, folding his arms across his chest and observing Orion thoughtfully. His golden eyes glinted mischievously as he remarked playfully, now, you look nearly as handsome as me. Though, still lacking just a little. But that's fine, not everyone can be as perfectly charming as the great sage equal to heaven. Orion's lips twitched subtly, nearly shooting back that he was more handsome despite his lingering exhaustion. However, he said nothing, respectfully allowing Wukong to continue uninterrupted. After all, beneath the playful banter, Orion knew the Monkey King had far more important things to share. Wukong's expression gradually grew more serious, though his playful demeanor still lingered beneath the surface. He nodded toward the golden headband, his voice turning calm yet solemn. Through this headband, you can access the true trial grounds of my legacy. Once there, you'll find guidance and instructions regarding what lies ahead. The Monkey King's golden eyes softened, the warmth and humor replaced briefly by genuine sincerity. Remember, young one, you now carry not only the legacy of the primordial emperor but potentially mine as well. I truly hope you are the destined one who can shoulder both legacies and reach heights neither of us have. As Orion listened, the Monkey King's figure slowly started to shimmer, gradually dissolving into gentle, golden particles of radiant light. The atmosphere around them filled with a sense of calmness, an acknowledgement of the moment unfolding between successor and predecessor. Wukong's voice, now gentle and faint, echoed one final time, resonating softly in Orion's ears, and I shall be waiting for you at the beyond. Orion drew a deep, steadying breath as Wukong's form entirely faded, leaving behind only lingering particles of golden radiance that gradually vanished into thin air. His heartbeat slowed, allowing himself a brief moment of introspection to process the wild, extraordinary events he'd just experienced, from the devastating battle with Valerian to receiving the legacy of a mythical figure. But just as he exhaled softly, releasing some of the tension accumulated through these intense events, the golden headband upon his forehead abruptly vanished. Instead, the gentle energy within it surged directly into his sea of consciousness, swiftly merging with the serene and thriving world tree sapling residing deep within him. A sharp curiosity filled Orion's mind. Quickly settling himself cross-legged upon the shattered ground, Orion closed his eyes, diving inward into his sea of consciousness to witness precisely what was transpiring. Instantly, his consciousness sank deeply into his SOC, arriving before the vibrant world tree sapling. However, before he could fully grasp the situation, Orion felt his awareness being rapidly pulled inward, directly into the very heart of the sapling itself. Within moments, a sense of completeness surged through him, like recovering a lost part of himself. Orion's eyes widened internally with astonishment and deep satisfaction as he realized he'd finally remerged with the larger, more powerful portion of his soul residing inside the world tree seed. The fragment of his soul that had been separated before due to some reason had once again merged, making him complete. The gentle energy from Wukong's golden headband began circulating powerfully within the world tree sapling, catalyzing something profound. Orion felt his very soul rapidly strengthening, shifting decisively from its previous stage of life fire ignition toward the more advanced and profound stage of soul shaping. In the external world, Orion's physical form instinctively adjusted into a meditative posture. His battered body settled into stillness, the small amount of mana of the restored space softly enveloping him. Inside Orion's sea of consciousness, stillness prevailed, accompanied only by the soothing resonance of his evolving soul. The world tree sapling stood radiant and serene, its small leaves rustling softly as if responding to an unseen cosmic breeze. Suddenly, a gentle yet vibrant surge of energy emanated from its core, cascading outward and mingling harmoniously with the recently merged fragments of Orion's soul. At the center of this spiritual world, Orion's life fire, previously a wild and formless blaze, now gradually began reshaping itself. Threads of brilliant golden white flame intertwined smoothly, meticulously forming the ethereal outline of Orion himself. The spiritual fire slowly assumed a distinctly humanoid shape, a silhouette glowing faintly, devoid of features yet pulsating steadily with life and willpower. Within his inner sanctum, Orion's consciousness watched in fascination. An overwhelming sense of completeness and unity pervaded him as his soul took clear form. His very identity seemed to solidify alongside this newfound shape, clarity blossoming in his mind, emotions stabilizing, and a profound self-awareness taking root deeply in his heart. Meanwhile, as his soul stabilized, the world tree sapling within Orion began subtly releasing a tiny flow of its purest energy into the external world. Outside, on the previously shattered landscape, Duke Varian and the Lion King stirred slowly from unconsciousness, groggy and confused. Varian rose first, blinking repeatedly as he attempted to comprehend the scene unfolding around him. The Lion King joined him moments later, struggling to his feet, breathing heavily, his golden eyes wide with disbelief and awe. Both leaders turned in astonishment to behold their once collapsing world now abruptly stabilized. The vicious spatial fissures that had threatened to tear reality apart were nowhere to be seen, replaced by a perfectly calm and stable sky. The mountains which were on the path of destruction seemed to have paused on their tracks, stopping the end of the entire world. Their eyes instinctively locked onto the source of this miracle, Orion himself, sitting cross-legged, calm and unmoving, his entire body surrounded by an increasingly radiant, verdant glow. Both leaders shared a quick glance of mutual astonishment and understanding that this was unquestionably Orion's doing. Yet, before they could even fully process the magnitude of Orion's feat, something even more astonishing occurred. A vibrant wave of pure life energy surged from Orion's seated form, exuding outward in a gentle but powerful pulse, rippling like serene waves across the ruined landscape. With wide-eyed amazement, Varian watched as grass and wildflowers rapidly sprouted at Orion's side, spreading swiftly outward, reclaiming barren soil. What had once been scorched earth and desolation became lush meadows, green grass crawling outward, blanketing the devastated ground in thriving greenery. Saplings rapidly broke through the soil, becoming small trees, their leaves rustling gently under the mystical influx of pure life. Beside him, the Lion King stood speechless, barely able to breathe as he observed the resurgence of life unfolding at an impossible speed. Injured soldiers scattered across the landscape felt a soothing warmth envelop them as their wounds swiftly knitted closed, pain easing from their faces, replaced by serene expressions of grateful astonishment. However, the somber reality lingered, those who had passed remained forever beyond reach. No miracle here could reverse death's permanence, yet the life energy restored hope and comfort to those who survived. The energy continued to expand relentlessly, racing toward distant horizons, effortlessly restoring mountains cracked and broken into towering peaks once more, their slopes rejuvenated with dense forests and rushing streams. Rivers flowed clear again, their waters pristine and teeming with newfound life. Oceans, once battered by spatial turbulence, calmed peacefully, waves gently lapping against revitalized shorelines. As Duke Varian gazed around him, his heart swelled with emotion, tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. His voice trembled slightly as he whispered softly, almost reverently, "This is nothing short of a miracle." "Orion, just who, or what are you?" The Lion King exhaled slowly, shaking his head gently in awe. "He has transcended mere power. Orion is a being of destiny itself. Today, he reshaped the fate of our entire world." Both stood silently watching Orion, who remained seated, eyes still closed, serene yet profoundly focused. Around him, the aura of life continued to emanate tirelessly. His body, bathed in gentle emerald and golden radiance, appeared almost divine beneath the peaceful twilight skies. Lumi, on the other hand, looked at Orion's condition as his body started to slowly heal on its own from all the accumulated injuries. "Master." Lumi continued observing, his soul fully merged with the world tree sapling and evolved together with it. And in the outside world, the gentle, luminous wave of life energy continued to cascade outward from Orion, stretching infinitely across the previously broken lands. Under the serene twilight skies, the radiant pulse surged with unwavering waves, washing over distant horizons and breathing vitality into even the most shattered regions of the world. Far from the epicenter, in the heart of the Lion King kingdom, citizens who had braced themselves for imminent destruction slowly opened their eyes in astonishment. Where moments before had stood burned villages and broken homes now appeared vibrant clusters of lush greenery, blooming wildflowers, and young saplings springing skyward. Broken ground repaired itself, and flowing manna infused the very earth, nurturing the roots of renewed life. Children who had cried in fear and despair now looked around in wonder, reaching their small hands out to gently caress the newly grown blossoms. Elders watched with tears flowing freely down weathered cheeks, kneeling gratefully upon the now lush soil as they whispered heartfelt prayers toward the heavens. In the Tiger King kingdom, commoners and warriors who had been left behind, who got injured due to the destruction happening all around them, lay wounded on the ground, their bodies battered and broken, slowly stirred in bewilderment as warmth and strength seeped into their limbs. Their injuries closed seamlessly, leaving behind faint scars as testaments to their ordeal, and spirits once burdened with sorrow and despair filled with newfound courage and hope. Their feline eyes widened in wonder as the scorched ground sprouted abundant grass and blossomed vividly before their eyes, transforming scenes of bloodbath into picturesque landscape filled with green grass. Within the capital city of the Lion King kingdom, the king's advisors stumbled from the royal palace, their gazes fixated skyward in disbelief. The shattered grounds and massive trees joined themselves back together beneath the glowing embrace of Orion's energy. Towering wood structures once toppled now rose anew, broken stones merging seamlessly as though guided by an unseen artisan's hands. The once dwindling manna in the atmosphere surged exponentially, enriching the air itself, allowing citizens to feel rejuvenated with every breath as the manna reached way above the previous limit. In both kingdoms, spontaneous celebrations erupted as citizens realized that their annihilation had been averted. They danced and sang, knelt and prayed, praising the unknown savior whose power was felt in every blade of grass and rejuvenated stream. Though they did not fully understand what had transpired, they intuitively knew their world had been pulled back from the brink of absolute destruction by a profound force of benevolence. At the heart of this miraculous revival, Orion sat cross-legged, eyes closed, body glowing with divine radiance. Within his sea of consciousness, his soul continued to take shape, growing ever more detailed. His silhouette of spiritual flame gained distinct features, hair, posture, and even the calm determination reflected in his face, mirroring the physical reality outside. Meanwhile, Duke Varian and the Lion King stood in stunned silence, eyes wide as they beheld the complete transformation of their surroundings. Where devastation and despair had reigned only moments before, now abundant life and flourishing nature took their place. The Lion King finally spoke, his voice deep and reverent, filled with awe. Today, our entire world owes its life to Lord Orion. He has gifted us not merely survival, but hope itself. Duke Varian nodded slowly, his heart heavy with gratitude and respect. He's given us more than just our lives. He has redefined our world, perhaps forever changing it for the better. The ambient mana throughout the kingdoms continued to climb steadily, becoming richer and denser, nourishing both the land and the very hearts of its inhabitants. Wildlife flourished anew, creatures emerging cautiously from hiding places, drinking deeply from revitalized streams, and thriving beneath the abundant, verdant canopy of new trees. Slowly, Orion's battered physical body also began healing, the deep wounds gradually fading beneath the influence of the pure, regenerative energy flowing from within. His consciousness, deeply settled within his sea of consciousness, was perfectly attuned to the pulsating rhythm of life emanating from the world tree sapling. Each gentle heartbeat of the sapling was in harmony with the entire world, as though both were breathing together, bound by a profound, spiritual resonance. He could clearly sense the fractured origin of this world being replenished and revitalized bit by bit, healed by the boundless, nurturing energy radiating from within his very SOC. Within his sea of consciousness, the world tree sapling shimmered with an ethereal luminescence, calmly dispersing its life-infused essence outward. Orion marveled internally, feeling a powerful yet gentle energy expand through him. It was as if his consciousness had expanded beyond his body, merging seamlessly with the fabric of the world itself. In that moment, Orion truly understood, he and this world were intertwined. Its pain was his pain, its rebirth now his responsibility. In the external world, the Lionkin and Tigerkin armies, once disorganized and scattered amidst chaos and despair, gradually regrouped. Their wounded bodies restored and hearts renewed with hope, soldiers slowly rose, their eyes filled with awe as they turned towards the epicenter of this miracle, toward Orion himself. At first, a single Tigerkin warrior stepped hesitantly forward, eyes fixed on Orion's serene, cross-legged figure bathed in radiant golden-green brilliance. With reverence, he knelt, lowering his proud head to honor the savior whose mere presence had granted them all a second chance at life. Another followed, then another, until dozens, hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands and eventually millions followed suit, all united in their humble display of gratitude. Lionkin soldiers, known for their fierce pride and stubbornness, stood frozen momentarily, emotions warring within them. Yet even they were compelled to yield, moved profoundly by the sheer depth of Orion's selfless act. Gradually, their hardened expressions softened, and they too knelt quietly, their faces solemn and respectful, acknowledging Orion as not just a hero, but something far greater, a beacon of hope and salvation for them. The once devastated battlefield now transformed into a place of reverent silence, broken only by the soft murmurs of gratitude and prayers whispered in awestruck voices. Under the tranquil twilight skies illuminated by stars that seemed brighter than ever before, Orion's seated figure appeared nearly divine, a symbol of stability amid a sea of unstable peace. Duke Varian, watching with quiet astonishment, finally spoke softly, his voice full of emotion. He doesn't simply heal worlds, he restores our very spirits. Today marks the dawn of a new era, a world united in hope. The King nodded solemnly, his majestic gaze fixed upon Orion. Never in our lifetimes have we witnessed a moment like this. He has done far more than save our kingdoms. Lord Orion has shown us the very meaning of a noble soul. Orion's seated figure remained a constant, serene presence throughout the days that followed. His meditative form had become akin to a divine monument, enveloped by gentle pulses of energy radiating outward from the depths of his sea of consciousness. The aura emanating from him provided a calming, reassuring presence that anchored the world around him in harmony. Days passed, 7 in total, as the army continued kneeling in front of Orion without moving an inch. As time slipped by, the overwhelming surge of energy gradually receded. It withdrew gently like a calm ocean tide returning to the sea, leaving behind vibrant landscapes restored to life, and an atmosphere enriched with flourishing mana that had become denser than ever before.